Welcome back to the channel. I'm Denise Brady, and as from a therapist perspective, I love this show because it highlights so many things of mother-daughter relationships that are not always so positive. The ripple effect of having a parent who might be a narcissist. Okay. And what happens when all that stuff that your mama been doing fallbacks on you. Okay. So make sure y'all tap in. Make sure you like, you subscribe, get into the video because it's going to be a little bit of a deep dive today. Okay. So get you a snack, something to drink. Make sure the kids are not in the way because it's going to be a trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Okay. Gotta be responsible here with some of my content. So trigger warning. Now, season 3 finally came back between the writer's strike and everything that happened. It took season 3 so long to come back. Okay. Now I'm here watching from a therapist perspective, and I'm looking at the dynamic between Ginny and Georgia. And so often on TV, what do we see from mother daughter relationships? The positives, shopping together, brunching together. Okay. A mother planning her daughter's wedding, baby shower. But this show highlights everybody ain't got that. And some of us have grown up with this. Some of us are trying to heal from this. Okay. The dynamics of a mother daughter relationship that is not what we needed, but what we got instead. Okay. And, we're coming back from Georgia trying to overcome an alleged, is it an alleged? Because we know what? She did it, right? Okay. All these, students we've seen her be able to get out of these different situations and think that she got away with it while protecting her children. But we're seeing over and over again, especially in these first 2 episodes that I watched, episodes 1 through 2, nah, sis, the things you have done, the choices you have made have been out of not protecting, but selfish reasons. Okay. And now Ginny is affected by it. Okay. Let's first talk about trauma and parentification. Because as I was watching this episode, I felt like Ginny is becoming her mother in some ways. Now, I haven't watched the full season, so that might not be true. But my therapist brain is like, okay, now it's the generational trauma repeating itself where Ginny is now becoming her mother in a lot of ways. Ginny is forced to carry emotional burdens beyond the fear, okay, beyond the years. It's classic parentification. And so she's becoming what? What is that? The emotional caregiver for Georgia, which stunts her own growth. And so many people have had to become parents to their parents because we were raised by parents who were emotionally unavailable, emotionally immature, who did not have emotional intelligence. And I wonder how many people can relate to that. Hmm? Georgia thinks that she's protecting out of secrecy and manipulation. This whole time she's been trying to protect, to me, primarily Ginny, but she forgot somebody, the baby of the family. Okay. The baby of the family who gets lost in the sauce, who becomes a witness to what Georgia did last season. Now, to run it back a little bit, okay, Georgia thought she was doing the right thing by, I don't want to say, was it murderous intent? It wasn't murderous intent. In her mind, she always thinks that she's doing the best for other people. Now, if I was to have killed your husband, well, she didn't say those words. If a person was to have done this crime, as she tells, I can't remember her name. I know I'm not good with names. If a person would have done this, wouldn't it have been out of like freedom, trying to free you from being a caregiver? All the time, this blonde hair, the looks, allow her to get away with things. Even so much so now a new man, her husband, is also Delulu. When everyone around him, the mayor, everyone is around him saying that she did it. She did it. He in his mind is like, no, she could not have done this. And it shows another example of how that blonde hair, blue eye syndrome is able to have people get away with things, especially women. We see it with allegedly um, Miss Gone Girl. A lot of women in the news lately doing these different things that because of the blonde hair, blue eyes, people believe them. But here it's not happening. We're seeing how these emotional burdens are affecting Ginny. And she's going to therapy. She's trying to overcome through my eyes. Let's talk about the therapy session. It was good. Okay. Oftentimes we see these therapy sessions where it's like that ain't really how it goes. Okay. Y'all making us look bad for a TV show. Okay. Sometimes I'm like, y'all should have real therapists come on here and really do these therapy sessions. But we see her having a therapy session. And let me know, therapists who are watching this. I thought the therapist was using some DBT therapy, trying to help her gain the tools to not engage in self injurious behaviors. You see Jenny trying to remember her coping skills, say them out loud. At one point in these episodes, we see her with a rubber band trying to inflict that same type of pain that she normally gets from, the SIB, self injurious behaviors that she engages in through another form. And it's good that even though she is saturated in her mom's stuff, she remembered, I can call my therapist. I can reach out for help. I feel like I'm going to engage in some bad behavior that I'm trying to not engage in. So I need a therapy session. And so I'm glad, even though in her life there's so much chaos, there's not a lot of continuity. Okay, things are all over the place. The one constant in her life is her therapist. Her therapist being there for her. So they did a really good job at that. But we see over and over again the triggers that Ginny is facing. Change. Okay. So much change. The ridicule at school. Now living with her stepdaddy, who she doesn't really know. Her father being in her life or re entering her life still from last season now. You got his mama trying to take custody of them. She is saturated in pain, hurt. In the past, the only way she knew how to cope with it was to burn. Okay. And so many people, once again, trigger warning, y'all, trigger warning. So many people don't engage in self injurious behaviors because it's fun, because they want to. Over time, it has been the only way I have learned how to cope. The only thing that finds me to The only thing I find that makes me feel like I can escape some of the chaos, I can escape some of the drama in my life, the pain, is to feel pain. Because I have been conditioned that pain is a norm, pain is how I cope. And I think that's what we're seeing here with Ginny is her trying to cope with all the chaos through pain. We also see her, to me, it's a trauma bond. I feel like it's a trauma bond with this neighbor, boyfriend, ex-boyfriend who has his own set of mental health, depression, anxiety, um, unaliving thoughts. Okay. That could be a whole separate video that as I go through the season, I'm sure we're going to get into. But to see her really try and overcome the self-injurious behavior, I'm like, yes, therapy, mental health, let's talk about it. Let's bring it to the surface. Now, some people might think it's a little bit too much. Similar to what was that other show they had? Like it was probably like 8 years ago where what was it, 10 Reasons Why or something like that. Some people thought that show was too much. And maybe it was a little bit ahead of its time for that type of content. But here, I feel like we need it. We need to talk about these things because so many teens, young adults are also engaging in this kind of behavior. Okay. And her SIBs are a critical indicator of unprocessed trauma, emotional dysregulation, and internalized guilt. We do not talk enough about the guilt that parents put on us to take care of everything. That I got to have it all together because my parent isn't having it all together. And teens really do internalize emotional pain, and the need for trauma informed care is really needed, not just for disciplinary action. Don't send your teen to therapy because you want to punish them. Oh, you were cutting. Oh, you're acting up at school. Or your grades are not good. Therapy is not going to work if that is the reason why your child is coming. Okay. And going further more into the character of Jenny, we also see her trying to fit in at school after her mother's arrest, who, side note, for her to have been arrested, her hair wasn't messed up. She was looking a little bit too pretty in jail. Okay, a little bit too pretty, but we're gonna go into that a little bit later. Okay. Now, Jenny trying to, you know, have some kind of normal life as a biracial teen where she is the only one Black. Well, we see her other friend, but being biracial, trying to identify and code switch between these two separate lives. I feel like there's this one, Black friend that she has, but then also her group of friends have a lot of their own issues that she's trying to navigate for herself, but you're trying to fit in. It's too much, girl. It's too much. It is too much. Okay. Now, watching Jenny in jail, sorry, Georgia in jail, okay, having her court appearance and she wore what, a prom dress. Once again, pretty is gonna give me everything I want. Okay, and I think we saw that pretty got her out of jail on house arrest to the point where old girl bedazzled, bedazzled. Come on now. Georgia lives in her own world. She to me is stunted at early adolescence. All the things she's been through, the things that have worked for her has been out of living out of survival. But now, girl, living out of survival has, your daughter going down a horrible path. To the point where we also see her. To me, she was having a panic attack when the wife of the man that her mother pulled the plug on, put a pillow over his face. Okay. I'm like, is she having an anxiety attack or is it a panic attack? And as I watch her kind of like go inward and feel overwhelmed, she couldn't breathe, feeling like want to crawl out of her body. It was more to me like a panic attack. And I think a lot of people have panic attacks as reactionary symptoms of trauma. But maybe you guys think it was more of an anxiety attack. I feel like it was panic. She was panicked that that woman was in the store where she worked at. She's having to confront another one of her mother's problems that her mama created. Okay. And so it's good to see how much they're destigmatizing mental health, depression, having unaliving thoughts. Okay. Self interest behaviors, anxiety. Is it eating disorders now or is it disorganized eating? Somebody let me know in the comments because I want to make sure I'm saying it right. I think there might be two differences, but I am not well versed in eating disorders and disorganized eating. So let me know in the comments. I'm the first to let y'all know I don't know it all. Okay, so I want to be educated too. So therapists in the comments, let me know. Okay. But we also see the enmeshments, of their relationship. And it's more like Ginny and Georgia are deeply bonded in enmeshment. Not mother and daughter. No boundaries, too much emotional dependency, and blurred roles. We see Georgia spying on her daughter from the balcony. All right, trying to be nosy, but also be in the mix. Girl, not you trying to be nosy while you on house arrest, trying to keep it with your daughter. You need to be keeping it with your case and your new husband. But Georgia is always everywhere. That's the thing. She needs to sit her ass down on that couch and, in some ways, learn how to be a mother. But I don't think she will ever really, at this point, 2 episodes into this new season, will she ever be able to sit down? No. 'Cause I don't think she ever learned how to do that. And you're seeing now her daughter does not know how to just sit down. I wish these 2 would really go to therapy. I think we saw them, was it season 1 or season 2? They went to therapy like once or twice. But Georgia could not take accountability. Okay. And I think if they were to develop more on differentiation, which is having 2 separate lives, being 2 separate people, it would help Jenny form her own identity. While Georgia learns how to let go of fear. There's so much underlying fear in this season, all these seasons. Who would Georgia be without Jenny? And who would Jenny be without Georgia? Let's think about that. Because Georgia thinks that she is protecting. But to me, it's pathological control. And I feel like in a lot of ways, Georgia has a lot of narcissistic traits where it's all about her. And though she thinks she's protecting her kids, it's all about me, my needs, what I need. Okay. And we see the blurred lines throughout this show between protective instinct and pathological control. Look at your own parental dynamics and think about, was it more of pathological control in your dynamic from your parents and protective instinct? Especially when we see Georgia manipulating different situations and people to maintain power. And I'm wondering, does she really love the mayor? Or is it another way for her to have control? And so we finally get to this dinner scene. I think this is probably like towards the end of episode 2. We see this dinner scene where everybody's having dinner together and leave it to a black woman to call y'all out. Y'all just gonna have dinner here. Her grandmother says this, her black grandmother. Y'all just gonna have dinner like nothing's happening? Like you're not on trial for murder, girl. And that's it. That's the glitter. Georgia has been able to pour glitter on things, make people just see past the seriousness of all the crimes. Because how many bodies she got? 3 bodies? 3 bodies? And she says only 3 to Jenny. Only 3 bodies, mom. I mean, only 3 bodies, daughter. But the black mom is like, so y'all just gonna eat this chicken, say grace like it ain't nothing. And I think all of it just becomes boom. You can only stuff the trauma for so long. And we see Jenny get up, go out of the house. I think this is the scene. Sorry, y'all. But I thought it was quite interesting how Georgia runs after Jenny down the street. And she can only get so far because of her ankle monitor. Okay. It just shows you, what would it be like, once again, I asked that question, if Georgia stepped back and could not chase after Jenny anymore? Not just in this scene, but the whole overarching of this show. If she was forced to create a boundary, And it's interesting how the ankle monitor finally forced her in some ways to have to stop chasing. Because who are you without your daughter? Who are you? And who would Ginny be without you chasing her and overshadowing her life? And Ginny continues to walk. I'm getting away. I'm getting away. Now, these are only the first 2 episodes. It was pretty deep, but we just see how secrets dominate their relationship, symbolizing how trauma survivors often equate truth with danger. Let me read that again. My notes. Secrecy dominates their relationship, symbolizing how trauma survivors often equate truth with danger. I think this show really shows how there are themes of healing through truth telling, even when it disrupts the illusion of safety. The illusion. And I wonder if the son will ever speak up about what he saw. Because now he's now the carrier of secrets. He's now holding the burdens of his mom's secrets. And I believe at the beginning of this season, it was one point where he went mute, I think, and he wasn't speaking as a trauma response. Okay. But I want to know from you guys, do you see your parental relationships anywhere in these dynamics? Okay. Do you see yourself? Are we showing healing from a perspective of that people are finally ready to talk about these things? Is it too much? What do you learn about yourself? And please no spoilers about the rest of the season, okay, in the comments. But let me know your thoughts because we can get it active. Okay, we can talk about it. Make sure you hit that like, you subscribe, and I will see you, girl, in the next video. Bye.